Hello, Dr. Dan Miller here, Historical Solutions LLC. We are at episode 31, and welcome to On the 250 River with Dr. Dan. We're doing our top 5 for the day and the week, wrapping up to June 5th, 1775. Hope you've had a good day so far, a good week, and prior to this, good weekend. If that hits any of you, my hope is that all of those things prove true for you as they did for me. So let's get started, shall we, with our 99% fact, 1% fiction sponsor of today's episode number 31. There's not a single sponsor, it's a collection of sponsors to give you a slice of life from New Bern, North Carolina, 250 years ago right now. We'll begin with if you're in the market for a horse. We've got a mare with a foal by her side. Now it's going to be an auction, and it's going to be a hot one. So you need to get there early and bring a little bit of money with you for this one. Telemidas is the sire of the foal, but a mare and foal are going to be sold together to the highest bidder in New Bern, North Carolina. You will get 6 months of credit as part of the winning price. So bear that in mind. You can also pick up a newly published copy of the latest book called From the Votes and Proceedings of the American Continental Congress. This is last fall's event. The current Second Continental Congress underway, but if you want the definitive information as to what they did, decided, voted on, wrote, and agreed to from last year as the basis for this year's version of the Continental Congress, you're going to want to get this book. This has the information in it. So you don't have to worry or rely on other people telling you or other people summarizing for you or anything else. You'll have the information for yourself. You need to get that right now. And then finally, if you do decide to purchase the mare and the foal, and you've got enough money left over to go get a copy of this latest book, and you have 18 shillings still in your pocket, I've got a good suggestion for how you might want to use those, and that is for a dozen bottles of beer. Wade's excellent bottled beer is ready for sale and, quote, in prime order for present drinking, close quote. So 18 shillings will get you 12 bottles, and they want you to know that it gets you the beer and the bottle that contains it, so that your 18 shillings gets a big value for a pair of good products. So thank you to that set of folks for their sponsorship of our episode 31 on the 250 River with Dr. Dan, and Dr. Dan, and we're top fiving here today. So hang on. Where to begin? Graphics department handed me this last minute number 5 that they produced. So let's start with 5th of the top 5, and we'll work our way forward, highward, and upward as far as all of that goes. Number 5 is James Forbes. James is 25 years old. He is in British India, I believe in the northern part of the colony that's controlled by the British government, and more specifically controlled by the British East India Company. James has a formal education, and he's got an informal talent, though, that is probably more important than the formal education that he has. And the talent is observation. So it's a two-part talent. Part one of it is a really great eye for observation. He really pays attention to the details around him, sees them, hears them, notes them. He's a cut above that. Now, number 2, he's able to translate and transmit those observations of details that other people miss. He can translate that into writing and into drawings. So he's got this really great ability to see it, hear it, and then process it so that you can see it or hear it as well, better than other people can do. And he's, by the way, that formal education, none of it pertained to these skills as I've laid them out for you. So James Forbes comes in as our number 5. One other thing, he's a secretary. He's only been a secretary now for a few months. His boss is a colonel in the British Army named Thomas Keating. Keating has suffered a military loss in India. He's aligned himself with a faction of an Indian confederation that was at beginning to fight. It is still at war with another faction of the same Indian confederation. And Keating got his rear end kicked, and so the boss, the colonel, wants Forbes keep your eyes and ears open. That knack for detail you've got, train it, focus it on what are you picking up regarding mood, tenor, tone, attitudes of the people around us, specifically, uh, the various Indian factions that are part of our world here in the British colony of India and the British East India Company market. I don't know what we'll call that, but keep your eyes and ears open, James. So he comes in at number 4 on our top 5 list. Do you have somebody who you rely on as your eyes and ears to pick up information that other people miss? Number 4. Let's take 25 years old. We have James Forbes, and let's knock 20 years off of it. So we have 5-year-old Elizabeth Gilchrist. 5-year-old Elizabeth Gilchrist, worried about her dad. Doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know what's happening, but Dad Gilchrist is not in good shape. He's worried, he's bothered, he's troubled. A little bit like James Forbes, he too pays attention to the things around him. Except in his case, what he's paying attention to is just very. And by the way, he's in southern Virginia, near the North Carolina border, where we saw New Bern's set of ads. He's in southern Virginia, and he's very worried about things just exploding into chaos and revolution and just all things bad. Or as he calls it, the horrors of a civil war. Elizabeth can tell that her dad's upset. My question for you is, you may be really wrought up right now as we sit here, early June, approaching mid-June, 250 years after Elizabeth. You may be really wrought up, and I wonder, what's the age you set for letting your kids know that, for talking with your kids about that? What's the age you set, or where do you try to keep them out of it and keep all of that away from them? As I said, Elizabeth is 5. I wonder what age, if you're a parent, or a grandparent for that matter, what age you think about in terms of keeping the youngsters away from your kind of public thoughts and concerns, versus when you bring them into it and have conversations. So Elizabeth is worried about her dad. So here we go. Number 3, 250 years ago. Let me check on my list here. Lemuel Haynes. Lemuel. Lemuel Haynes. He's 21. Well, we got youngsters talking about today, right? He's 21 years old. He's been in a militia unit for the last few weeks. He joined it because of all of the chaos and the bloodshed at Concord, Lexington, and Old Bay Road. He wanted to be a part of it. Wanted to do his. He's newly freed. He was enslaved, but he's newly freed, and he wants to do his part. In fact, he kind of exchanged that enslavement for his freedom in deciding to move forward with his temporary service. But now he's kind of gone back. After about 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of hanging out there outside of Boston with 20,000 guys who've encircled the British redcoats there. But while he's been in camp, he decided to try to put together, in the form of a poem, a memory, a retelling, and a kind of an interpretation of Concord, Lexington, and Old Bay Road, the battles and the fighting and the bloodshed of April 19th, a couple of months ago, almost a couple of months ago now. He puts it in the form of a poem, and tries to circulate it among fellow soldiers and citizens and those all those folks. And not only is it in a poetic form, but he kind of wraps it all up in a particular theme. And the theme is Christianity, that this is something that is happening under a kind of a Christian sovereignty, if you will. So, and a Christian meaning to it. So that's what a 21-year-old Lemuel Haynes does 250 years ago right now. So he's number 3. He's making sense of his world by using his gift of poetry, or his kind of newly discovered gift of poetry, and a very deep religious and spiritual Christian faith. Number 2, we're heading into our top, the upper echelons of our top 5. Number 2 is going to go to, let me find it here. Hang on. Peter Salem. Peter Salem is 25 years old. Gosh, they're young. 25-year-old Peter Salem. He's also black. He has joined a unit out of Framingham, Massachusetts, that has coalesced, organized itself under Captain Thomas Drury, and marched to be part of the 20,000 men, just like Lemuel Haynes had done for a few weeks. Peter and his group are there for a longer haul as far as they're concerned. But 27 other people in this unit, and I don't have the exact number, but we're probably talking around 50, 60 or so, all told, comprising a company under a captain. But 28 of these guys, including Peter, are not happy 250 years ago today. They're not happy, and the reason they're not happy is they just got word that their company is being transferred under the command of a different colonel in a different colonel's regiment. The companies form into a regiment. The regiment is commanded by a colonel. They said, hey, never agreed to a transfer, number 1. Never agreed to transfer to this other regiment, number 2. And never agreed to a transfer to this other regiment led by this other dude, colonel. No. We're not going to be doing this. And they write out a letter of protest, a petition of some kind of a collective grievance, and they say, we want our case heard and acted upon to our satisfaction. And they're sending it up the ranks through the 20,000 men that are milling about, encircling Boston, and the redcoats inside. That's a deal, right? I got 28 people here, including Peter, who are saying, we're not doing it. Now, the other members of the unit, of the company, they're fine. They're okay with the transfer. But not Peter and his 27 comrades, his 27 colleagues and fellow soldiers. So he says, not what we bargained for. Not in, and here's a key word, not in the contract that we made. There's a big body of belief that goes back into English history just a century or so ago, John Locke and other people, onto European history more recently than that, with this idea of a contract between people in a disorganized condition who contract with themselves, with others, to form a government under which they will be citizens, or they'll be the subjects, if you will, of this government, but only if the contract is followed. So Peter and his 27 are saying our contract militarily has been broken. And that's where we are 250 years ago today, in the second position of our top 5. Number 1, and finally at the top of the heap, the top of the bunch, is going to be a letter written by the Massachusetts Provincial Congress. That's the group that's right now kind of in charge of these 20,000 guys. And we've got a black guy writing a poem about what he's hearing the experience was at Lexington and Concord and Old Bay Road, and then the Christian interpretation of it. He's writing that poem. We've got 28 folks, including the black guy, Peter Salem, saying, hey, broke the contract, time out, we don't want to do this now. Take us back to where we were, and we're fine with the contract. And then you've got if that's A to Z, then you've got 300 letters in between. That's the 20,000 guys. And so the Massachusetts Provincial Congress writes a letter and sends it to the Second Continental Congress, so think a layer up, Continental, and says, hey, we want you to take, this group ought to really be your responsibility. Please keep in mind that everybody here wants civilian control of the military, not military control of the civilians. So you agree to that principle, and they kind of know that that's one of the animating principles of this whole American and colonial rights cause at this point. Keep that principle at the core of it, but we want you, Second Continental Congress, to take over control of these 20,000 guys and the A to Z and the 300 letters in between that everything, all the issues represent. So that's our top 5. That's number 1 on our list. So I think that's a kind of nice progression all the way up, right? So what's the big idea, Dan? What's the big idea? Well, here's the big idea for today, and I'll let you go. 2 things. Boom, boom. 2 things at the same time that are unfolding, rolling forward to some point of conclusion, to some point of explosion, to some point of some big next stage. They're not there yet. 2 things. No, when you're a leader, gosh, that's really a common reality. 2 things, maybe more than 2, but certainly more than 1. 2 things, rolling, unfolding, heading towards some next big thing. We've got 2 things here that are happening. Number 1, we've got these 20,000 guys, and who's in charge? Who's in charge? Number 2, just to go back to last time, we've got 4 British generals who are now among the holdup in Boston, and they're planning a major operation against the 20,000 guys. So, who's in charge of the 20,000 guys on the Continental Congress American side? And then, what's our plan as Redcoats, military professionals, among the world's best? What's our plan of operation against those 20,000 guys? These 2 things right now, 250 years ago, are unrolling, unfolding, day by day, hour by hour. At some point, maybe they connect. Maybe they don't. But at some point they might. From a leadership perspective, that's the truth for you too. At some point, those 2 things might connect. I think, it's probably a pretty big deal whether or not you're like James Forbes and you've got a real good eye for detail, and you translate that eye for detail into kind of an analysis and an expression of what it means. There's folks, there's leaders who have that knack. I see the 2 things, and I think they're all going to meet, boom, out here. Or I don't think they're going to meet. But there's a lot of people who are also leaders who don't have that knack. And they'll either be caught flat-footed and then have to react, or they'll just probably kind of be steamrolled by whatever happens if the 2 things connect. They'll have to help their leaders make sense of it one way or the other. So some folks will get it in advance. They'll get that mental connection in advance. Others, maybe most others, won't. But it'll still be true that they'll have to deal with it. I've got to tell you, I really appreciate you hanging out. I've gone a smidge longer than I sometimes want to do. But I don't know. It just felt like a good thing to do today. Dr. Dan Miller, that's who you're hearing right now, yammering on. Historical Solutions LLC, the top 5 on the 250 River with Dr. Dan. I will see you next week, and we'll have the same thing, but a week later, a week further on downriver. Talk to you soon.